Hello and welcome to Everyday Lessons Every Day. I'm David McBee. When I found myself going through a difficult time a few years ago, when my family walked on eggshells around me because I was so filled with anxiety and anger, I decided I had to make a change before I lost them. That's when I turned to self-improvement books to work on myself and my relationships. After several months of reading every day and applying the lessons I learned, I was able to go from grumpy to grateful. It was this journey that inspired me to write the book, Everyday Lessons Every Day. The power of personal development changed me, and I believe it can change the world. To that end, I invite everyday people to share their everyday lessons and how those lessons are changing their lives for the better. This week, I sat down with someone I've admired from afar for about a year. Like me, Julian Placino is a student of success who has invested thousands of dollars and hours into books, seminars, and personal development. If you were to Google Julian's name, you would quickly discover his podcast and YouTube show, Pathways to Success. You would see awesome social media content, including robust articles, smart video clips, and keynote speeches. He's a man who has followed his passion, and it has paid off. So of course I had to invite him to be a guest on Everyday Lessons Every Day. This is episode 46, Discover, Serve, Grow. Julian, hello.
Hi, David. How are you?
I'm so good. I'm happy to have you on the podcast. I have been watching your content, a lot of it on LinkedIn, and I feel like I kind of know you, so that's exciting.
I'm excited to be here, and I'm glad that both of our content creation journeys has connected us together.
Yes, it absolutely has. Tell everyone a little bit about who you are.
So I am a recruiter turned success speaker, show host, and personal branding consultant. So from 2006 to 2012, I come from the world of professional recruitment. So technology, staffing, and also creative was my base. Around 2016, I started my passion project, my podcast, The Pathways to Success. And because of this show, I got signed by a talent agency, a speaking agency, started my consulting company. And that is why I'm a big believer in doing work that you love, centered around your strengths.
Awesome. Okay. And are you single? Are you married? Do you have family?
I am engaged, yes. So Rosie and I, we've been together for 2 years. COVID has certainly thrown a wrench into the marriage plans, but things are starting to come back into fruition in terms of humans in physical spaces. So we'll see how that goes this year.
Okay. All right. Do we have a date set maybe?
No date set yet, but hopefully that's going to happen sooner than later.
Oh no, she's going to hear this interview and be like, it's time.
Yeah. Thanks, David. Man.
Hey, as someone who's been married for over 20 years, it can be the greatest thing. It really is. For me, it definitely is. I can't imagine not being married actually.
Yeah.
So, although if anybody has read my book, they know I maybe kind of cut it close on there. That's some of the troubles that I had. And one of the reasons that I started to embrace personal development was to make sure that I kept that marriage going the way that it has for so long. And so I believe in personal development, like more than most people. I think I'm a little bit of a personal development junkie, you might call me, right? Because it saved my life, So that's why I have this podcast. I want to get other people's lessons out there into the world, and I can't wait to hear what yours is. So tell us about your everyday lesson.
So the big passion topic I talk about is this idea of stewardship, and that human beings seem to find their greatest self-expression at the intersection of their natural talents plus skill, areas of interest, and value creation for others. So my perspectives is professional recruitment and staffing. So I personally have hired hundreds of top performers and coached thousands into employment. And now having the show, I've interviewed 197 incredible leaders, company founders, CEOs, New York Times bestselling authors. And each one of those, the consistent element is every person found a way to exploit their talents and abilities, which gave them sort of a way to pursue endeavors where they automatically had a competitive advantage in their areas of interest. But it wasn't enough just to be good. You had to apply skill, you had to do it in something that you loved, and you had to create value for others. And this pattern of success I've seen happen in the corporate world and the entrepreneurial world. So for me, that is the fundamental lesson of achieving success. Discover, serve, grow. Discover your talents and abilities, use them to help others, in turn, all your stakeholders, yourself, and your community, and all those that you look to serve grow as well.
I like that very much. Can you share some stories of people that have done that?
Sure, I'll share my personal testimony, right? So, although I've been working a corporate career for the past 12 years, I've actually been hyper entrepreneurial, trying to sort of figure out my entrepreneurial identity because just like you, I was really big into personal development. And when I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, that really set my mind off in a completely direction in terms of what I really valued. And what I valued was freedom and autonomy. And I saw that I could only experience that in the realm of entrepreneurship. And because of that, man, I've tried network marketing, I've tried real estate, I've tried internet businesses, all sorts of different things, right? But what was motivating me was the money, to be able to get to the point where my passive income met my expenses and that I'll be financially free. Well, I side hustled that for 10 years. And around 2016, I was really starting to burn out. Luckily, before I made this entrepreneurial leap, I was working for an incredible company called Bottle Rocket, a mobile developer here in the Dallas area. And they're really big into doing work that you love. And once a year, we'd actually shut down the company and do a hackathon where for 24 hours, we could actually do that. Well, for me, I loved having conversations with interesting people. And that's when I started my podcast. I had a talent and ability of interviewing people. And my natural preset was seeing sort of the greatness in a human being. And I saw that was encouraging and also inspiring. And these conversations that I had, the podcast was basically capturing these conversations and sharing them with other people. So I began to hone and discover my talents and use them to help others without putting any kind of expectation on myself to succeed. But that was the kind of right energy to develop a craft and a discipline, and therefore a platform that launched me into doing what I'm doing today.
So you're suggesting you started this passion project not for the same reasons you were doing network marketing and real estate, but because it was from your heart.
No, what you're saying is absolutely right. The difference was the motivation, was the why behind it, right? Simon Sinek's why. Why did somebody do this, right? Because with network marketing, it was about money, about freedom. There was sort of a selfish desire to make money, right? But here it was more about self-expression. And I was trying to scratch an itch that I had, and I didn't want to put any kind of pressure on myself to succeed, those historical markers, right? But like I said, doing that, there was this intersection. What was happening is I had a natural talent, I added skills to it, and I saw that it was helping others, and it was in the area of my interest. So when I started to experience opportunities to monetize sponsorships and speaking opportunities, it felt so organic and congruent because it was an extension of this platform that I built purely out of passion, interest, and love.
So is that your advice to other people, is figure out what you love and create something?
Yeah. Yeah, play around with it, right? I'm sort of like, I'm passionate about helping the lost because I've been lost for so many years. And I have sort of like a process, especially coaching people into finding jobs, that really seems to work. A lot of times people are motivated by how they're going to look in the world or by money or external expectations, right? But that is not a sustainable kind of energy to become great at a particular discipline. Whatever it is, it must first come inside. A piece of advice that I got from Bob Stromberg. He was a comedian I interviewed on the show. And he says, Julian, you have to bite back at the things that bite you. Pay attention to your curiosities, the things that light you up, the things that give you energy. Lean in that direction and play, be still, explore, fail, do all those things, right? Because when you start to play in that area, it's hard to create from a place of fear. You almost have to come from a place of joy and love. And from there, you can start to figure out opportunities and see kind of a path to, how do I take whatever this is here and use it to create value for someone else? Because that right there is a seed of an enterprise, perhaps starting off as an independent contractor, then eventually into a kind of a business.
Back in your network marketing days, did you feel like not only were you chasing the money and I call it the circles, right? You get one, they get three, they get three. Did you feel like you were helping others to achieve financial freedom as well?
Gosh, man, I would recite the lines and all that, but it just never felt organic. It still felt like kind of a copy me business. And I always seem to want to do something that is uniquely to my own. And I tried a lot of them. And, I achieved some success with some of them. I actually lost a lot of weight doing P90X, right? And I started a website blog called P90Xresults.com. And it turns out I was infringing on the trademark. I was making this money through AdSense, right? And then they reached out to me and they said, you got to change the name. So we changed the name to workoutresults.net, and then we became an affiliate. That was my first experience in terms of affiliate marketing. And to this day, we still get a check like anytime somebody buys Shakeology and all that stuff, right? So yeah, there was that. I did like a water company, and then Ambit Energy is one that I did generate some significant income with. I recently exited that business. I had no idea you could sell an MLM business, which I did. So
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, in the early days, man, people are making a killing off it because if you think about it, MLM is a cash flow producing business, and with any kind of cash flow, there's a multiplier associated with it. So, energy is not necessarily something I'm passionate about. I met some great people, had some pretty decent income, but I'm really focused on building my media company at this point.
Gotcha. Well, I'll throw this out just for giggles. I also was in network marketing back in the day.
Okay.
My experience with it was pretty positive. I had something like 8,000 people in my organization. We got checks every day. Right after my son was born, my wife and I both quit our jobs to go full time in the business. Mm-hmm. But it was a tax savings business, and the IRS was not a big fan of it. So they raided the corporate headquarters and shut that down. So that was painful. But I got a little taste of what it was like to not have a job, to be free, right? And to this day, I have always had jobs, but there's always that other part of me that that feels the need to be an entrepreneur, right? Thus my personal speaking engagements, writing the book, the whole thing. So let's focus on that because I think you've done something.
I feel like I need to say this first, though, real quick, David, if I can interject. I am not against network marketing. If anything, I am absolutely for it. It is the right thing for the right person at the right time. I grew so much throughout that process, right? I met incredible people. I learned sales. I learned networking. I learned all sorts of things, great experiences, right? But it just was not the business for me. And I think that's part of it. You need to do a bunch of things to figure out what is organic, right? And I think I looked at my earnings. I made like $175,000 doing it, something like that, right? For something I did sort of part-time. I was lucky. I recruited like 6 people into the business, and that like you turned into thousands. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I'm not knocking it at all. If anything, it was great experience for me to begin to practice skills of entrepreneurship. I am pro MLM.
Were my comments anti-MLM at all, do you think?
No, because I feel like I sort of put a spin at the saying that I sold an MLM business, that I was sort of against it. It's not. There's seasons in someone's entrepreneurial life, and this was the season of mine.
Okay, cool. So we're both pro MLM, but It's not for us.
That's exactly 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, I got into Amway when I was like 20, and it was Amway that introduced me to How to Win Friends and Influence People and Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and all those wonderful books that influenced me in such a positive way. So I have a huge respect and a great deal of love for MLM as well. Now, having said that, let's move on, because I think you've done something that most people only dream of. And that is, you worked at a job. You had what'd you call it? A side hustle or a passion project, right? And you turned that into your full-time life.
I did.
What's the secret to doing that? Besides what you've already told us, like you found something that you love doing, you found something that helped others. What can we tell our listeners today that will help them achieve those same goals?
Well, I'll tell you the exact story and the steps of how the rubber met the road, how I acquired my first customer, and maybe your audience will be able to pick some of that up, right?
Perfect.
So in 2016, I started this podcast, right? And everything was pretty much audio format only, but I started to develop this habit and also the skill of creating content. So in 2018, this content creation habit, it bled over to LinkedIn. Now, I'm a recruiter, and I've been using LinkedIn as a sourcing tool since 2006, but I only started using it as a publishing tool in 2018, and that changed the game for me, right? So something else I'm also passionate about was teaching other recruiters the discipline of recruiting. So I remember the first recruiting video that I posted on LinkedIn, it generated 34,000 views in 9 days. And then I was receiving comments and messages. It was the first time I ever experienced any kind of virality aspect when it comes to social media, right? And I was like, wow, okay, cool. So there might be something to this. So I posted another one, and another one. And all of a sudden I had all these recruiters and salespeople in the staffing industry asking me for help, for advice, and for coaching. I sort of emerged as a thought leader because of all this stuff that I was creating, right? So what happened? I started engaging with this audience, and they kept telling me their problems. They're like, hey, I have issues with branding myself. How do I land a client visit? How do I present my offering? All these different kinds of things. So what I did is I took all of the top training pain points, I turned it into a training product, and I sold it into the market, right? So I literally used social media to tell me the problems and inform my first training product. I sold it twice, Odyssey Information Services and also the InSource Group. Because I had such an excellent reputation and relationship with my leaders at Bottle Rocket, they actually allowed me to train my personal consulting clients every other Friday for 6 months on company time. Because at the same time, I linked what I was doing to becoming a leader in recruiting for Bottle Rocket. Plus, the brand that I was creating on social media was pointing to them as well. So I found a way to do this, not this, but this. How do I use what I'm doing to be of service to everyone that it's touching, right? And because I built this brand, everyone else, a lot of people were starting to ask me to speak about how did you build your brand? Because there was a direct application to marketing and business development. What does having an online presence do for you? Increased access to people, which increases your access to opportunity, boosted trust, credibility, and authority, and the vast expansion of your network. A social following in business should not be looked at as a vanity metric, but a distribution channel for communication. And now I teach my methodology to people all over the country. And I've helped so many people build a brand, and it works. And the evidence is verifiable. You can just search for it online.
All right, I'm going to challenge you a bit because it
Sure.
sounds like you were in a unique situation where you were able to turn your passion project slash side hustle into something that also benefited your employer. Did I understand that properly?
Yeah.
Okay, so what if my passion project side hustle has nothing to do with my job and my career? Where do they find the time? Where do they find the ability to do that while they're also trying to negotiate a full-time job and a family and all that?
David, if you have enough desire and vision and you are excited about it, you will make the time. What is the cliche? You and I have the same amount of time as Jay-Z does. That is a fact, right? Now, how are you allocating and prioritizing your time, right? I would challenge you if you say you don't have time. You don't know enough what and why you are trying to accomplish, because that will sort of arrange in itself your activities based on your desires, right?
I love that, Julian. I love that. I have another friend who always challenges me. He says, nobody should say they don't have time. They should say the words, I don't prioritize this. Right? Is that what you're saying? It's like,
It's true, but the prioritization will happen when clarity takes place on the what and why you want to do something. So, what is your why? Why do you want? What's important to you right now? What are your motivations? Like for me, for example, I'm motivated by freedom, autonomy, self-expression, meaningful work, and spiritual alignment. If what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis doesn't align with that every single day, I am out of congruence and I'm probably just worthless to society, right? But even if I'm not making millions of dollars in the bank and I'm still able to do that, I can find a place of peace and joy because I know who I am.
I'm just going to let the silence ring because I think that what you're saying is something people just don't even think about, Julian. They're all too focused on being successful entrepreneurs, and success is measured by the dollars. It goes right back to what you said in the very beginning. When you got that right, when you figured out that money wasn't the actual motivator, it took you on the right path.
Yes, because it's confusing, right? Because I because there's all this external pressure to make money, that is automatically the thing that you want. And me, I have a people-pleasing personality, so it's like I want to look good, I want to do what society wants me to do, right? But I did that for 12 years and I wasn't happy. I was happy following my own bliss. And it's really, Steve Jobs, he said that follow your intuition because it sort of secretly knows what you want to become. I found a lot of truth in that, right? But it only came from a place of frustration for me, to be honest with you, right? Because I tried all these different things and I couldn't get it. But really discovering my talents and abilities, finding a way to align it with my areas of interest and create value for others, that's where it started to expand. And it felt like I wasn't trying to get opportunities. It felt like I was attracting them.
That was huge. That's a huge sentence. Instead of chasing them, you were attracting them because you were doing all the right things.
What does Jim Rohn? He says success is something you attract by the person you become. That's so true, right? I've never spoken about personal branding before, right? I didn't even know what a personal brand was. But what people were referring to was this social footprint, this online expression of me as a result of like talking about things that I cared about, right? But that is how I became a personal branding speaker. But that wasn't first. That was the result of me following my passion, doing something I love, and creating all these videos that I cared about, right, online.
Awesome. Fantastic. So good. All right. I've kept you longer than I promised I would. But before I let you go, please tell everyone how they can find you, follow you, and get more of your wisdom.
You can see my show on YouTube, The Pathways to Success, which is live on YouTube Thursdays at 2 p.m. Central. You can just type in my name, Julian Placino. Placino spelled Placino. I'm the only Julian Placino that's ever existed. So you can type that name into any social platform. I'll be the first to come up. I'm most active on LinkedIn. But yeah, between LinkedIn and YouTube, you can follow me there.
It must be nice to be the only person with your name. That's kind of cool.
I think I got lucky. Yeah, I totally did.
All right. Well, Julian, thank you so much. I feel so grateful to have had you on the show. I learned a lot for myself, and I can't wait to share this with the world. Thank you so much.
I'm glad. It's been a pleasure.
Well, I said this during the interview, and I'll say it again. I'm so grateful that Julian volunteered his time to be on my show and share his story with all of his brilliant advice. And there was a lot of it, wasn't there? I heard more than one everyday lesson, and I'd be willing to bet it's hard to have a conversation with Julian without learning something valuable. For me, I especially liked the concept that success isn't about the money, not even entrepreneurial success. It's about being true to your desires and goals. And if you do that, Julian tells us that the money will follow, that you will attract the money if you stop chasing it. And I absolutely love that idea. But of course, there was a theme that was repeated over and over, so it only makes sense that I would challenge you this week to write Discover, Serve, Grow on your wrist. Discover your talents and abilities, use them to serve others, and in turn, you and your community will grow. Let me know what happens when you implement this lesson by reaching out to me at everydaylessonseveryday.com. You can also purchase my book while you're there or learn about hiring me to speak about personal improvement at your upcoming event. If you like the stories brought to you by Everyday Lessons Every Day, please consider writing a review, and also please share this podcast with your friends. Finally, do you have an everyday lesson to share? I'm looking for guests, so if you have an everyday lesson you've learned from a self-improvement book, a movie, a song, a relative, or a life experience, I'd like to talk to you. Let's see if together we can make the world a better place. I'll see you next time. Now go out there and do something awesome.